Okay, so shalom, welcome to our second video. And today we're going to speak about Mizmor Yod-Tet למדינת ישראל, Mizmor Yod-Tet for the state of Israel. This is Rav Zvi Yehuda Kook's sermon. And Mizmor Yod-Tet has a double meaning. Mizmor, when we say the Hebrew word Mizmor, it means both a biblical psalm and a hymn of praise. Yud-Tet refers both to Psalms 19, right? The numerical value of Yud-Tet is 19. Tehillim Yud-Tet, Psalm 19, and to Israel's 19th Independence Day. Right, we're 1967, establishment of Israel, 1848, as you all know very well. So the title ties together scripture, song, and national history, and the sermon is unique. Why is it unique? It's unique in its content. It's unique in its length. It's unique in its deep emotion invested in it. Now the students, and here you can see a typical photo, the photo above, where you see Rabbi Zvi Yehuda Kook with students surrounding him. Remember, there's still not too many students those years, and they recorded. Student will listen to his voice during the sermon of Mizmor Yod-Tet למדינת ישראל. And so they recorded the sermon and they wrote it down, but we should note that Jewish students or yeshiva students have always recorded important sermons delivered on holidays or other special occasions up to this very day. And I myself took many times notes on days like Independence Day, or like a day before a holiday when there were these outstanding sermons. For me, it was Rabbi Aaron Lichtenstein. Studied in the Gush, Yeshivat Gush, in Gush Etzion. Now, it was only during the sermon itself that the students realized they were hearing something unusual, something extraordinary, with content of rare depth. In this sermon, Rabbi Zvi Yehuda Kook essentially laid out his theological vision regarding the state of Israel. Now, I uploaded the sermon both in Hebrew and an English translation. The English translation does not cover the whole sermon, but majority of it, yes. And I definitely recommend you read it as an enrichment, supplementary material. And I want us to turn to the sermon itself. It was delivered on the night of Yom HaAtzmaut, Independence Day of Israel. It was a Sunday evening, May 14th, 1967, the eve of the Hebrew date of Independence Day, Hey Be'iyar, the 5th of Iyar, the month Iyar, the Hebrew month Iyar, Tafshin Kaf Zayin. Tafshin Kaf Zayin, 1967. at the Merkaz Harav Yeshiva, right? The yeshiva, the Religious Studies Institute, where Rav Zvi Yehuda is the head he's leading the institute, he's leading Merkaz Harav Yeshiva, and I would like us, I think it's extremely important to go through the central themes together. And I think anyone who writes anything about religious Zionism must learn about Rav Zvi Yehuda, and anyone who writes anything about Rav Zvi Yehuda must be familiar with Mizmor Yod-Tet L'Medinat Israel. It's a must. Maybe some of you already are familiar with this, and if not, today is the day. Now, yeah. Ve'im lo achshav v'matai, right? If not now, then when? Now, it's worth noting that the Independence Day, and here's the second photo I attached here, Independence Day and Jerusalem Day, celebrated at Merkaz Harav, have continued up to the present to serve as a highly significant event in both religious and political spheres. Here you can see Bibi. So this is from recent years. Prime ministers, there's these gatherings regularly. They attract participation of prime ministers, senior cabinet members, they do have this national importance, and it's worth noting. It's very worthwhile to hear Rav Zvi Yehuda's actual voice. I always believe, we shouldn't be only talking and reading, but also watching and listening. I hope you already realize this. In my classes, I like to share some videos, some voice recordings. So we won't listen to the whole thing, but let's listen maybe 1 or 2 minutes. And for those of you who speak Hebrew, I want to ask, are you able to follow what Rav Zvi Yehuda is saying? It is quite difficult. And for those who do not fully understand the words, I would like to ask you, what is the impression you get from his voice? Pardon me, tone, delivery. Did anything about the rhythm, intensity, or emotion stand out to you? Let's begin.
מפעם לפעם אנחנו רגילים קצת, משחקים במידה צריך להגיד יותר, בייחוד לזכות לקיים את הפסוק האחרון, שני הפסוקים האחרונים של המזמור זין, שאנחנו רואים בתקנת רבנותינו. ראו ישרים מעשי השם.
ראו ישרים מעשי השם.
ישרים רואים מעשי השם, אבל נזכה יותר ויותר להיכלל בכלל הישרים. אולי מותר להזכיר את זה בכלל הצדיקים הישרים. דברי קודשו של הנציב זוכר לברך בפתיחת הספר בראשית. וישרים רואים מעשי השם, ובמידה שחסרה ישרות, אם צדיקים משפשות צדיקים וישרו, חסרה הראייה של מעשי השם.
Okay, so we'll stop here. Now, I want us to look into the sermon itself and what does the sermon contain. So these are the main themes, the main point. One, Rav Zvi Yehuda begins with a call for uprightness. Uprightness. There's always this problem of translation. Yashrut. Something that is yashar, is straight, but someone who's acting with uprightness, with yashrut, to be upright means not to be crooked. His message was redemption is before us, expressed in the establishment of the state of Israel, and all we need to do is open our eyes. Those religious Jews who fail to recognize that God Himself brought the state into being as part of the divine plan of redemption are, in his words and Rav Tzviuda's words, closing their eyes. They are behaving in a crooked way. He cites the verse, "The upright shall see it and rejoice. Yir'u yesharim ve'yismachu." And they will be, full of joy, of happiness. This is from Psalm 107, Tehillim Kuf Zayin. In his interpretation, if you are upright, you will see and you will rejoice. Joy depends on uprightness. And I quote, "We must accustom ourselves to open our eyes and to discover the endless wonders of God's Torah and the wonders of God's deeds." So first of all, he's saying, guys, Bachurim, open your eyes. It's not hidden, it's out there. You just have to make sure you're not following the crooked way. יראו ישרים וישמחו. Then he speaks of connecting to the people. Amcha Yisrael, the simple people, the lay people. Rav Zvi Yehuda emphasizes the natural integrity, this yashrut of the simple people. This is also a fascinating phenomena. I did write a bit about this in one of my articles in Hebrew about this idealization of the Masorati, not to be confused with conservative or reform Judaism, but the Masorati, the traditional, the secular Jew who does believe in God and observes some of the halachic Jewish law, commandments, way of life. And there is this notion of seeing these Masortiim is yesharim, is full of integrity, something that is very spontaneous, very authentic, and that represents the true nature of the soul, of the cosmic soul of Israel, of the nation of Israel. Now, Rav Zvi Yehuda is telling us, look at these people in the photo in front of your eyes. Look at these people. They don't have a kippah. They're not religious. They may even not believe in God. They're men and women. They're mixed. But they're so happy. They see what the Haredim, the ultra-Orthodox anti-Zionists, fail to see. They see. And why, asked Rav Zvi Yehuda, we do not see rabbis there? Why we do not see religious leaders joining the joy, joining this uh, uh, um, spontaneous um, dancing and joy? So he's saying those who are not observant of Torah and mitzvot, these people, they sense it. They grasp that something momentous has happened In his words, the religious community should join them, rejoice together with them. But then he raises a sharp question. Why are the rabbis not out there in the streets, dancing with the people? I quote, there is a question bordering on Chilul Hashem, Chilul Hashem, desecration of God's name. Where are the elders, the eyes of the community, Einei Ha'edah, the great ones of Torah and its masters in the streets of Jerusalem, rejoicing with our people and our inheritance? Now, then he goes on and speaks of the personal story of November 29th, 1947, Kaftet November 1947, and at the night of the UN partition plan, right? We all know the UN partition plan, Tochnit HaChalukah. And he says, I was asking now, where are the rabbis? But I myself was staying in my room, unable to join the celebration. He says, I could not bring myself then, back then, he's 19 years ago, he could not bring himself to join the celebration, and I quote, I sat alone, yeshavti badad, and silent, va'edom, yeah. The Hebrew is from my memory, it might not be accurate, but pretty much, yeshavti badad, or va'eshev badad, va'edom, or it weighed heavily upon me, ki natal alai, tal alai, she's a netel, there's a weight on me, heavily upon me. In those first hours, I could not rejoice myself. So the first hours, he could not rejoice to what had been done. How come? Why not? He knows, he himself already knew it's a positive resolution. It's a positive, this plan. This is what allows the establishment of the state of Israel, right? But it's not enough for him. I could not reconcile myself to what had been done, to that terrible message. They have divided my land. Yeah, this is a quote from the Bible. Ve'et artzi chileiku. They have divided my land. Where is our Hebron? Where is Hebron? Have we forgotten it? Okay. This is very important. Eifo Hebron shelanu? האם שכחנו את זה? And where's our Shechem, Nablus? Have we forgotten it? איפה שכם שלנו? האם שכחנו את זה? Where is our Jericho? Jericho. Have we forgotten it? And where is our Trans-Jordan, River Hayarden? Where is every clod of earth? Every portion of the 4 cubits of God's land. Arba Amot. של נחלת Hashem, Eretz Hashem. Is it in our power to surrender even a single millimeter of them? האם בידינו לוותר על איזה מילימטר מהם? God forbid, never and under no circumstances, chas v'chalila, chas v'shalom, end of quote. He describes, now he is describing 19 years later, 1967, and the students sitting there, listening to the sermon, hear him speaking about the present. He is telling them a story of 19 years ago. They are asking themselves, they're listening, and what they hear is, איפה חברון שלנו? האם אנחנו שוכחים את זה? איפה שכם שלנו? האם אנחנו שוכחים את זה? ואיפה עבר הירדן שלנו? האם אנחנו שוכחים את זה? Where's Hebron? Where's Nablus? Where's Transjordan. Where are all of these parts of Israel that are not in our possession, that now belong to others? Now, this is the eve of the Six-Day War. A few weeks, a couple of weeks, 3 weeks before the Six-Day War. And many of, right? So when he's asking, it's not only about the past. Where are these places? How can we rejoice if we have forgotten them? So his message is clear. We must not give them up. They are ours. He's speaking about the biblical borders of the land of Israel. He says, this is all ours. We don't have, um, we have no permission to give it up. And he continues to describe his own sense of shock and inability to celebrate. This sadness would later energize the Gush Emunim movement. Gush Emunim, right, the settlement movement, was born from that shock, from the conviction that if parts of the land of Israel are forgotten, they will ultimately be relinquished. One must not forget. One must act. So we need action and we cannot forget. And yet, and this is to continue the story, he recounts a turning point when who enters the room, Rabbi Charlap. Remember Rabbi Charlap and how he's a key figure in our story. Yaakov Moshe Charlap joins him. Together they sit in grief until they recover and declare, this is from the Lord. It is wondrous in our eyes. Um, or this day, Zehayom, סליחה, מאת אדוני הייתה זאת. This is from the Lord, מאת אדוני הייתה זאת, היא נפלאת בעינינו, right? This also is from Psalm 118, Kuf Yutet, verse 23, verse Kaf Gimel. So in other words, this is how God chose to bring redemption. We may not understand why in this way, but we are on the path towards redemption. So Rav Zvi Yehuda then continues with the sermon, recounts the story of Rabbi Meir Bar Ilan, who once shouted at an Israeli statesman during there was this UN discussion over the status of Jerusalem, and there's this Jewish politician saying we need to be careful about what we say, how we act, and Rav Meir Bar Ilan shouts, Wer hört sei? Who listens to them? Who listens to them? Who takes them into account? Now, in other words, they will decide for us what to do in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is ours. The state of Israel is ours. The land of Israel is ours. Even the land that is out of our reach at the moment. So they are going to tell us what to do with our land. It's our land. It's our land. It's our homeland. So Rav Zvi Yehuda describes this as an expression of holiness, faith, and Torah, certainties, not doubts, vada'ut, lo sfekot. Now, these words of Rav Zvi Yehuda, in the name of Rabbi Meir Bar Ilan, they continue to resonate with people until this very day. When you hear resolutions of the UN, discussions, what do people say? What do people say? They hear Rav Zvi Yehuda's voice asking, Wer hört sei? Wer hört sei? Who listens to them? Who listens to them? And then again, He speaks about the importance to connect to the public. He turned to the importance of connecting with the wider public, the tzibur. He explains that the chief rabbinate of Israel had decided to recite Hallel, and Hallel, the selective chapters from Psalms, that in certain holidays, Jews during prayer time recite, and on Independence Day, the chief rabbinate of Israel says, yes, we will recite Hallel, we will recite this group of psalms, but we'll do it without a blessing in the name of God, without a full. So this means this is a liturgical expression of joy, but not complete joy. And why is the joy incomplete? Because some religious Jews do not believe that God was truly reestablishing the kingdom of Israel in their days. So there's a lack of faith, a lack of uprightness, and this leads to a lack of joy. For, as he insisted earlier, one who is not upright cannot be truly joyful. So the chief rabbinate, he argues, is meant, and all this he's saying during the sermon, saying the chief rabbinate is meant to represent the spiritual heartbeat of the entire Jewish people. For this reason. So of course, yes, we should say, recite the Hallel with a bracha, with a full blessing, the name of God. That's the correct thing to do. But unfortunately, not all religious Jews are happy. Not all religious Jews rejoice. Not all religious Jews open their eyes to see the miracles, the wonders of God, establishing, pushing history towards writers this theological um, move of God, or the dialectic move, um, and they failed to see this. So for this reason, the chief rabbinate ruled Hallel, yes, but without the blessing. And in the same way, Merkaz Harav Yeshiva. So yes, there are other yeshivot, other institutions that say Hallel with bracha. But Merkaz Harav follows chief rabbinate. Why? Because Merkaz Harav Yeshiva itself belongs to all of the people of Israel, not to a narrow sector. And indeed, many of Rav Zvi Yehuda's followers today object the label religious Zionism. They do not identify themselves as religious Zionists. So it's very interesting, right? Because in their view, they're not a sector. They are Am Yisrael. They're the people of Israel, the nation of Israel. They represent the whole nation. They're not just religious Zionism. They're much more than that. They're expressing the will of the entire nation. And this too explains why Merkaz Harav recites Hallel without a blessing. And here one can also discern early signs of Rav Zvi Yehuda's caution regarding ascent to the Temple Mount, to Har HaBayit. This also has to do, right? This is also a matter, or matters that he suggested that must wait until the entire nation desires them. Even if in his own conviction the act itself is right and worthy, he insisted on moving together with the people. And this in turn foreshadows a future division among Rav Zvi Yehuda's followers. To what extent should one take into account the spirit of the nation as a whole? And to what extent is that spirit authentic and religiously meaningful, rather than a passing cultural fashion or the result of negative influence from media and academia, something that ought not to be followed at all? And we'll see some implications during the disengagement plan, Tochnit HaItnatkut, from Gush Katif, and even before. What is do people join Gush Emunim? What's more important to connect to the people of Israel, to the state, to different sectors, or to conquer the land, hold on to the land, establish settlements? What is Rav Tzvi Yehuda asking us? Well, not us, right? But that is what the followers are asking themselves. What would Rav Tzvi Yehuda say, right? What would Rav Tzvi Yehuda say? What would he tell us to do? Run, be these, go ahead, um, go for the settlement project, or wait. You're running too fast. You're running ahead of yourself. You're losing the people. The people do not understand what you're doing. They do not like what they're doing. You need to convince them. You need to sit with them. You need to listen to them. So it's a different kind of settlement. They call it settlement in the hearts. Lehitnachel balevavot. So there's settlements in the land and there's settlements in the heart. And we already see this uh, dual voice in Rav Tzvi Yehuda's sermon. From one hand, we need to hold on to the land. Everything belongs to us. Nobody can tell us what to do with this. It's ours because God gave it to us, and it's the land of God, but God gave it to Israel. And I'm so sad, says Rav Tzvi Yehuda, that we didn't get the whole land to be ours, only part of the land, 1947. So he's crying, but then he realizes it's part of the redemption, and he is happy that redemption is beginning in front of his eyes. But then he's also speaking about listening and being aware of where people are at. And if not everybody is happy, maybe I shouldn't be entirely happy because I'm part of a body, of a collective body. I do not operate on my own. I'm not an individual, says Rav Tzvi Yehuda. Now, the next thing he goes on to touching upon is the IDF military parade. So today we do not have that anymore, but in the early years, and also there's some writing about this, the early years of Israel, the state of Israel. So there was an IDF military parade. And Rav Tzvi Yehuda praises this parade and declares that everything connected to the rebirth of the kingdom of Israel is holy. He speaks about it as holy. And he says it's not a matter of my strength and might of my hand, right? We know from the Bible, it says, Kochi ve'otzem yadi asali tachai lazeh. God tells us, do not say that. Do not think to yourself that my strength and the might of my hand is what brought me to success. So Rav Tzvi says, it's okay. You can we should have these parades. We should be proud. Why? And he explains, and I'm quoting, um, this is no flaw. There is no flaw in watching the parade. For when we remember that it is God who gave us this strength to succeed, it is not my strength and the might of my hand in the negative sense. Rather, it is Torah in practice. We learn that we must fulfill the commandment imposed upon us with this strength, the conquest of the land. End of quote. So he argued that the Jewish people are now fulfilling the commandment, identifying by Nachmanides. So there's a commandment that Nachmanides counts. There's different ways of counting 613 commandments in the Torah, right? There's a tradition that there's 613 Tariag, right? 613 mitzvot, right? Commandments. So there's a question how to, and Nachmanides, not Maimonides, Nachmanides writes the following words. He says that inheriting the land, conquering the land, of Israel, he says, is a commandment. It's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah. And he says, we shall not leave it in the hand of others, of other nations, nor desolate, right? So we need to own it, and we need to make sure that the land is prosperous and 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 the place is successful. So for Rav Tzvi Yehuda, holiness is tangible and real, not a matter of subjective feeling. God Himself decreed holiness. The people of Israel are a holy nation. The souls of Jews are holy souls and holy bodies. This is very different, by the way, than from people like Yeshayahu Leibovich, right? When Yeshayahu Leibovich writes about holiness, says, can a man be holy? Can the IDF be holy? No. But Rav Tzvi Yehuda says, yes, it's tangible. And he says the souls, the bodies, the nation as a whole has a collective soul, the neshama klalit, which is holy. The land of Israel, chosen by God, is holy. He says, of course, the land is Eretz HaKodesh, Am HaKodesh. Its fruits are holy. The fruits, the actual fruits, working its soil is like the laying of tefillin. Therefore, the army is holy. It's not positive, it's not good. It is positive and good, but it's not only positive and good, it's holy. Okay, so this has this religious religious terminology here, and the tanks are holy. The uniforms, the IDF uniforms, are holy because all of these are part of the mitzvah, of the commandment of inheriting the land and reestablishing the kingdom of Israel. He then emphasizes the importance of studying the Kuzari, the works of Maharal, and the writings of Rav Kook, his father. Without these, now this is why until today these Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, Maharal Miprag, and Rav Kook are very essential. They're very central to the studying in the yeshivot that follow Rav Zvi Yehuda Kook. Not only Merkaz Harav, but many other yeshivot. They study, they focus on Maharal and Kuzari, right? The book written by Rabbi Yehuda Halevi, Rihal, and the books of Orot, right? We have, right, the Sifrei Orot. And he says, without this learning, one could easily forget the foundation of faith, such as every sinner in Israel is, by definition, a holy person, because he belongs to the people of Israel, of whom God said, "This people I have formed for myself. Amzu yatzarti li, tehilati esaperu." So Rav Tzvi Yehuda declared, I'm quoting, there is great holiness in Yom HaAtzmaut, and Independence Day, the day on which the state of the holy people was established upon the holy land. And at this point, he presented the Haredim, the ultra-Orthodox, as heretics. I'm quoting, this is the state foreseen by the prophets. That's what he says. And he continues, nowhere is it written that those who establish the state must be righteous. It is written only that the people of Israel will return to the land, build homes, and cultivate the soil. So, end of quote. Therefore, anyone who does not believe in the acts of God revealed before our very eyes is a kufer. He denies the miracles. He denies the act of God, even if he looks like a ultra-religious Jew, a Haredi Jew. Rav Zvi Yehuda added that even within the religious Zionist camp, there are those who harbor doubts, but there can be no doubts here. Faith means certainty. Emunah, mashma'a, vada'ut. Rav Zvi Yehuda used the striking expression, the true Israel, right? You can probably think of other places you heard this. Veros Israel, right? The true Israel. Who's the true Israel, right? So we know in Christian theology, uh, the true Israel. So what Rav Zvi Yehuda described as the true Israel, Israel Amiti. What is this true Israel? It is the redeemed Israel, the Israel of the kingdom of Israel and the army of Israel, a people dwelling in completeness, not scattered in the diaspora. So when Israel is in the diaspora, in exile, they're not true Israel. It's an impression of Israel. They're scattered. Therefore, when Israel went into exile, it caused a cosmic upheaval in all the worlds. And now, with the coming of redemption, there's again a cosmic upheaval. Redemption is unfolding step by step, year by year, and in each year, there's another Mizmor, another hymn, another psalm, another chapter of Psalms. And in this year, the 19th year, right, when he's delivering the sermon, it's Mizmor Yod-Tet. And then he goes on and speaks about Mizmor Yod-Tet and Tehillim and Psalm, and he says, each year, and also these years, you can see that some rabbis every year deliver a sermon based on the Tehillim chapter, the Psalm chapter of that year. And the 19th year corresponds to Psalm 19. The psalm begins with the heavens declare the glory of God. Shamayim mesaprim kvodeh. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. U'ma'aseh yadav magid arakia, right? There is a vision of the natural and earthly, but then it shifts to Torah and mitzvot, the spiritual and heavenly. So it begins with the natural and continues to the spiritual. So too, says Rav Zvi Yehuda, in the book of Ezekiel, we read first, I will take you from among the nations, gather you from all the lands, and bring you into your own land. And only afterward we have the verse, I will sprinkle pure water upon you, right? So he says, first, you build the state of Israel, and then later the state becomes more observant. People become not only Zionist, but religious. And he does also criticize some aspects of the state of Israel. And he says, listen, we're not here to say everything is perfect, not at all. And there's sharp criticism against two aspects of the state of Israel. Many people who study Rav's view that think this is education system and the legal system. So the legal system, yes, but the second thing he mentions is not the education system. I'll turn on here the aircon. We'll get to it. So the first, says Rav Zvi Yehuda, is the legal system, which makes use of non-Jewish laws rather than the true law of Israel. And the second, and that has to do with the paper I'm writing these days, and I said, if any of you want to join me, please let me know. And that's religious Zionism and Christianity. So he says the state of Israel has weakness in confronting missionaries. He argues that Israel was not doing enough against Christian groups or Messianic Jews who sought to convert Jews in Israel. That he concludes with the phrase, Gadol Kiddush Hashem Michlul Hashem. Sanctification of God's name is greater than desecration of God's name. So ordinarily this would be understood as comparison. X is greater than Y, right? But Rav Zvi Yehuda explained it in a different way. His interpretation was when there is a situation that includes both X and Y, right? Kiddush Hashem and Chilul Hashem. An element of Kiddush Hashem and an element of Chilul Hashem. Right? The sanctification and the desecration of God's name. So when there's a situation where both aspects are included, both elements, then the side of Kiddush Hashem outweighs and determines the reality. This, he said, is the situation of the state of Israel. Yes, it has problems, but it is only the beginning. And matters will improve. The positive aspects, the good, the holy, are incomparably greater. So this brought the sermon on Mizmor Yod-Tet to its close. Okay, so Mizmor Yod-Tet on Mdinat Israel. The yeshiva students listened carefully, they took notes, and a few weeks later, many of them were already in the battlefield. The same students went out to fight in the Six-Day War. And many of the places that Rav Zvi Yehuda mentioned in his sermon, Hebron, Nablus, Jericho, were conquered by the IDF. And in the eyes of many of Rav Zvi Yehuda's followers, he became some kind of a prophet. His words were some kind of prophecy. Now, at the very beginning of the sermon, Rav Zvi Yehuda cited Psalm 107, Kuf Zayin, traditionally included in the special Yom Ha'atzmaut liturgy, Independence Day, so there's the special prayers. And one of its verses, they shall give thanks to the Lord for his kindness and his wonders for the children of men, Yudu l'Adonai chesdo v'niflaotav livnei adam, became a very popular Hasidic song, right? So there's this Hasidic tune, and what's interesting is that in religious Zionist world of Merkaz Arab, this psalm has reinterpreted as a hymn of thanksgiving for the establishment of the state of Israel. So the song spread widely. And today, if you search for it on YouTube, most of the performances you'll find are from Zionist yeshivot, sung on Independence Day or Jerusalem Day. So we won't listen to everything, but I want you to listen to the Hasidic pronunciation of the original song of Yodula Hashem Chasdo, and then we'll see some examples of how widely it's distributed amongst religious Zionist institutions.
Hashem Chazdoi, Yoidil Hashem Chazdoi, Yoidil Hashem Chazdoi, V'nivris of Livna Yudoi, Yoidil Hashem Chazdoi, Yoidil Hashem Chazdoi, Yoidil Hashem Chazdoi, V'nivris of Livna Yudoi, His Biyah, V'nefesh Oy Kaiko, V'nefesh Re'yayvo, Oy Milay, Milay, Milay Toy, His Biyah, V'nefesh Oy Kaiko, Ahay V'nefesh Re'yayvo, Milay, Milay, Milay Toy, Yoidil Hashem Chazdoi, Yoidil Hashem Chazdoi.
This song became particularly famous and sung in religious Zionist yeshivot. See maybe one or two examples. All of these are from religious Zionist yeshivot. Here this says in Yeshivat HaKotel, Yom Yerushalayim Tafshin Pei Dalet. So it's last year in Jerusalem Day. And here's another one. Also from Yeshivat HaKotel. And last one from Merkaz Harav. This is Merkaz Harav. So I myself danced there many times in my life. Okay, so we have the discussion question. In what ways do you think Rav Zvi Yehuda's 1967 speech, right, or sermon, the Mizmor Yod-Tet Medinat Yisrael sermon, influenced the settlement movement? Please explain again. I do not expect you submitting a PhD on this, only initial, some initial thoughts, outlines. I mean, I don't expect much more. Just what are your thoughts? What may have influenced? Okay, you don't have to come with certainty. You can come with doubt and suggest what you think may have influenced the settlement movement, the Gush Emunim. We know, in fact, that the people who established Gush Emunim cited this sermon many times, and they consider it to be one of the most powerful sermons. There's, by the way, books written amongst the followers of Rav Zvi Yehuda themselves of like commentary, all kinds of commentaries to this sermon. Really interesting. I can happily share with you some of them that I have. They're in Hebrew, but I can, I'm happy to upload them. Just ask. Now, coming back from the Six-Day War, so there's the beginning of the settlement movement. Gush Emunim begins only after 73, only after it begins 74. It begins after the 73 Yom Kippur War. But there's and also the peace movement emerge, and probably one of the first prominent, influential texts that came out from the peace movements from Shomer HaTzair is the book Siach Lochamim. I have a copy here that's from 1970, so it was published, the first print, it was first printed October 67. Okay, so I think maybe we'll talk a little bit about Siach Lochamim and what's very interesting. So this is interviews um, with the IDF soldiers that went through the Six-Day War, but there were a few soldiers that were interviewed. Originally were supposed to be included in the book, and they were excluded. And guess what? The soldiers that were interviewed were from Merkaz Harav. And they had such a different narrative than the one in this book that they were excluded. And only about 50 years later, in a new edition, they were included again. But this already teaches us a lot. Thank you very much